Some aerovac helicopters that were up there picking up wounded, and two of them were shot down, and we were sending napalm loaded A1s up there to keep, to drop around the area to keep the Charlies and North Vietnamese from coming in and killing off the wounded. We brought in a Russian truck today that they'd picked up in that area, and boy, was it ever a mess. Shrapnel holes all over it, and blood. And this tank, went over to see it, Russian tank, and from outside it didn't look bad, but it'd been hit with anti-tank guns, which had gone inside and exploded, and it made quite a mess. It's spooky outside. Let's take a look. Yeah, I hear him. I'll be right back. I'm back again now. He was just hosing down the area like he does most every night. Wind just blowing the right direction to make it sound a little closer, I guess. A lot of flares up tonight again, as usual. That helicopter flight we went on, we were just 4 miles, I guess, outside the base, just the other side of Engineer Hill, between there and the mountains. That whole area out there is just pockmarked with mortar holes, mostly what we've fired out. In fact, I guess practically all of it's what we've fired out in there at night. It's what they call H&I firing. It's harassment and interdiction. Just you lay it in there if you even suspect something might be there. And of course, the ground's littered with burned out flares and parachutes from them. They have these little parachutes that let them float down. And there's trenches and bunkers and foxholes and places where they've burned Charlie out of there sometime in the past. There's a lot of old bunkers out there that have been bombed or shelled. And then there's a ravine, must be, it's pretty deep. It's really heavily wooded out in that area. We stayed away from it because, if the stuff had fallen in there, we'd forget it anyway. We'd never find it. And also, I'm sure Charlie's is in those woods, so we avoided that area and stayed over the clear area where we could, at least, if there's anybody around, we could see them. We saw a lot of the Montagnard villagers out farming and rice paddies, and they're out digging grubs, ate grubs, You see them out digging in the ground, these long grub worms, I guess, and roots, eat roots. It's a mighty poor country in here, I tell you. It's flying over those little villages, just shacks made out of anything they can find, packing cases or discarded metal for roofs and sides, all just jammed together and dirty. It's a very depressing area. First helicopter ride I ever went on. It was interesting, and riding in the back of it there's no door, it's just a packet type thing with a great big open place in the back, so you strap yourself in with a seatbelt. We wore flak vests or helmets and carried the M16, and just in case, if I'd had to sit down out there, I'd wanted some protection. But we stayed out, I guess, 2 hours the first time, came in, refueled, went back out for another hour and a half. About gardens people are putting in around here. There's a lot of banana trees on the base. They look something like a palm tree, only they don't get as big. And they have the leaves similar to a palm. We've got 7 or 8 of them out in front of the our munitions office building. We have to water them every day, of course, or they die. They say they had bananas on them last year, real good ones. But so far they don't have any this year. I guess a little bit early for them, maybe. This building out there is really something too. It's just a shack, filthy dirty because you can't keep the dust out of it. Roads out in the area are not paved, and the parking area around the building where we have to park all of our trucks and tractors and forklifts and all that. We've got 30 some odd vehicles out there in the area that have for moving the munitions around. They all have to park around this building, and it's just dust. I mean, every time you move, you dust fogs everywhere, and you can't believe how that stuff just settled all over everything in the office. All your manuals and our whole publication file just coated with it. Typewriters, and the desk has a half an inch on it every morning. We'll have his Vietnamese janitor that sweeps. That's all he does all day long is sweep and dust, and he can't stay ahead of it. He's an old man, I guess maybe 50 years old, crippled, goes barefooted all the time. A lot of the Vietnamese workers do go barefoot. Anyway, he keeps plugging away and wiping desk and wiping everything, and dust. Got a little short-handled broom he sweeps with. He just can't stay ahead of it. Captain Barber got back from Bangkok today, and he's real enthused about that area. He's bought a lot of stuff. Says the cleanest city he's ever seen, and all kinds of shops. Food was good, and just had a real good time. Said just spent, I guess, 2 nights in Bangkok. One coming, one going. Is up at Korat Air Base, which is on up north of Bangkok. American movies in their theaters, American radio, American TV. Most of the shopkeepers there speak English. Things were very reasonable. Good meal for under $2. All in all, it's one of the best places I've ever been. It's a very prosperous looking place. People were well dressed, well fed, busy. I don't know, it's quite a contrast to this place. I guess Saigon, maybe years ago, may have been similar to it, but if refugees have swelled the population there, and they've built a lot of shacks, and of course it's been hit a few times. Not much to look at anymore, they tell me. I haven't been there, and really I don't have any desire to go. I'll turn in now and get some sleep. I'm kind of bushed today, and try to record some more tomorrow and then get this mail to you. Hurry and get me one mail. I'd like to hear your voices again. And you boys help your mother all you can now that I know she needs the help, and do good in school. I'll pick up some things for you and send them back. I won't be able to send any shells of any ammunition of any kind back. They really screen everything now to make sure you don't. There's been so many rounds of live ammunition go in that they don't take any chances on anymore, even though it's been disarmed. But I'll pick up other things that I can and get you some coins and stamps and take some pictures at least. I sent a roll off this morning to Hong Kong to have developed. There's that German film, and the only place I could find in this area over here to get it developed is Hong Kong. So when those slides come back, I'll send them on home, and I've got another roll of camera that's almost used up. I'll get it developed and sent back, and I'd like to get a lot of pictures of the base area. That's all I've seen. And if I ever get a chance to things quieten down in Pleiku City, I mean, if they take it off the off-limit status it's on now, get into it sometime, take some pictures. I guess I could take them driving through it when we go to the Army base, but there's not much there. It's a very desolate-looking place. just shacks is all I could see. I saw no buildings there that looked like anything at all except just slums. There's a real pretty lake just off the base here called Lake Ho something or other. Uh, Beautiful lake. Lays down this valley between the mountains and just barely offside the base. And personnel services have some boats and water skiing equipment, but they've put the lake off limits now. Snipers started shooting at people water skiing, so nobody's allowed to go to it anymore. We have a swimming pool on base, but haven't been to it yet. As dusty as it is around here, I imagine the water stays muddy. I haven't had a chance to go anyway. Monday we're going to start on a 12-hour day, 6 days a week. See if we can't get caught up a bit. Work from 6 to 6, which is about what we've been doing anyway, but I mean we'll officially start doing it. Of course we have people out in the area all the time, operate 24 hours a day, but right now they're on a 10-hour shift instead of 12, so we'll see what happens on it. Well, I better get to bed if I'm going to get up in the morning. Y'all write and tape and let me hear what's going on now, and don't worry about me. Just take care of yourselves. If something breaks or needs fixing, have them fix it. Well, good night. I'm back home from the demolition range now, and I was real happy when I got back to the base and checked the mail and had a letter and your tape. And you're right, this is the greatest way in the world to communicate. Must be the first time you've ever talked that long without being interrupted, but it's sure nice to hear your voice again. And you can say so much more than you can put on a piece of paper. I'm sure glad that got the washer to working good, and I was sweating it out, flooding again, and glad to hear that the laces that we know where they are again. I'll try to drop the line to them. Sorry about Nat's hip, though. Although it's not real unexpected, she was having problems with it, I believe, before we left Washington. That was a real nice article Pat wrote. I didn't know we had such a journalist in the family, but very well written. And now we finally know what he was doing all the time when he wasn't home, I guess. And real nice to hear the clock chiming again, too. Sounds real pretty on tape. We had quite a day out at the range. We left here about 8, I guess, and had a whole big flatbed full of bad munitions to blow up. Most of there's a lot of bombs that had been dropped and didn't go, and there's artillery shells, and there's captured Chinese and Russian rockets and shells of various kinds, and altogether about 7,000 pounds. We took it out. It's about 15 miles, I guess, off base, but it lays in between Pleiku, our base, and Camp Holloway, and it's all supposedly secure area. There's a lot of rice farms around the area, and you see the peasants out flailing their rice, and we kept watching, and there's people that didn't look too much like peasants. I mean, they were lined up, about 6 or 8 in a line, and scattered out about 10 or 12 yards apart, and they were cutting across this rice field towards a clump of woods. And so we deployed out. We had air police with us, and they'd set up machine guns back up on the little knoll behind us. We were down at the firing point, which is about a quarter of a mile from the pit where we set the stuff in, to blow. So it was just the 3 of us down there, myself and Major Dickens, who's 7th Air Force EOD staff officers down on a staff visit, and NCOIC of EOD. And we had Tommies. I had a Thompson submachine gun, a 38 and an M16, and they all had M16s and various other types of small arms, so we kind of scattered out around the perimeter there, and where we could cover the whole area. And we kept these people in sight all the time. There's several groups of them way back, several hundred yards. Yeah, I didn't notice when the tape ran out, so I talked for a good 3 or 4 minutes, I guess, before I realized what happened. So I'll try to repeat what I said. Anyway, I was saying there's several groups of these peasants or Charlies or whatever the heck they were, scattered all out up through the woods and the edge of the woods and the rice fields. We kept an eye on them, and the helicopters from the base were patrolling the area, and we felt pretty secure. So, but they did land about 7 60-millimeter mortars out 50 to 100 yards from us. I think that was about the maximum range from this little village that we're firing from, which is suspected to be a VC village. And I'm quite sure that they were out there supervising the rice harvest to make sure that they got either their part of it or all of it. But all in all, it went real well. They didn't dare get out of the edge of the woods and come in during daylight to try to get us, of course, because we were too close to the Army, and there's a South Vietnamese Army observation post just back of where we were, and I'm sure they were watching them. And there's all kinds of stuff around, so they were just harassing us, trying to, or letting us know they were there. No danger involved, actually. We blew up the 7,000 pounds of various types of unserviceable munitions. It made quite a little pup, big flash and a fireball and quite a boom. People on the base, that they heard it, thought it was under rocket attack, although it notified everybody, and told them exactly when we were going to fire. Of course, they didn't make a PA announcement of it. But we were a quarter of a mile, I guess, down from the pit where we blew it. It's a big pit where they blow the stuff all the time, even the South Vietnamese Army and our Army and everybody else around uses it. Pictures of it. Hope I got the flash when it went, and I know I got the mushroom cloud that went up. It should turn out. After we got through the blowing the stuff, we went back up the pit, of course, to make sure that everything had been destroyed, and did a little firing into the pit, just checking out our weapons and getting a little practice in. Fired a couple of full clips out of the Thompson submachine gun, about 100 rounds all told, I guess, and several clips M16 and 38 pistol, and all in all, it was a pretty interesting afternoon. We got back, Major Bryden, the Australian Army advisor, Ranger Army advisor that I told you about, meeting, who had invited me over to visit him this afternoon, or 11:30 actually, we were supposed to go, and it was at least 2 o'clock, I guess, time we got back. And anyway, I went over, and they were scheduled to go out on an operation tomorrow for 30 days. They go out 30 days at a time, they're back in for a week, and then back out again for 30 days. And these people are, they're guerrilla types, they're rangers. They do all kinds of stuff. He picked me up a North Vietnamese Army set of fatigues that I'll send home. Actually, they look very much like ours, or OD, and very good material. I don't know whether it's Russian furnished, or there's no markings on it whatsoever. They're brand new. And he said he'd try to get me a helmet and anything he can pick up, Right now, they're hurting for camouflage fatigues, these jungle types. And I I told him I'd see if I could find him some. He needs 30 pairs for his small group he has over there, which is half American, half Australian. And, well, that's just the advisor portion, and the rest of them are all mutton yard tribesmen. But he was just trying to get them for the Americans and Australians. His second-ranking man over there is an American Army Master Sergeant named Robinson, who's has a brother that lives in Conway, of all things. He's from California. Anyway, this is his third tour over here, and he said he was going to retire when he goes back. He's had just about enough of it. But I stayed over there and talked to them for a couple of hours, I guess, and then I invited him over to the officers club here for dinner. He'd never been over officers club, didn't know he could come, you know, and they've got, I mean, they live real austere over there. The quarters are much worse than ours, and they don't have a decent club to eat in, so I brought him over, and we had a steak for supper, and we just finished eating, and his warrant officer, I mentioned to you, he came charging over, and he said, well, we got to move out tonight, so Bryden had to take off, so I guess he'll be gone for 30 days. Well, you know, we'd all kind of discussed the possibility of living in Australia, and he's sure like a good Chamber of Commerce representative for the country. He's telling his monthly salary while he's in Vietnam was $800 a month, and he's in the top 5% of the income for the whole country. His rent is $5 and something a week, and he said his electric bill was $26 a quarter, 3 months. So it sounds like their cost of living is considerably less than ours. And he said they're begging for American Anglo-Saxon Protestant types to immigrate there. And said you could buy 100 acres all within 50 or 60 miles south of Sydney, right on the coast, with beach property and all, with a good home on it for less than $10,000. And said that area in there, climate ranges from a low of 35 in the winter to about 85 in the summer, and get enough rainfall that said you can grow anything in the world on it. And it just sounded awfully good to me. Said the school system is good, and they have a socialized medicine plan where you pay 50 cents a month per person, I think, and it gives you hospitalization benefits. Said his there's 5 of them in the family, and his wife could shop for a week and cost $25 for food. And he said this included steaks and roast and the whole works. Milk's 20 cents a quart on the local market. And he said fresh fruits of any kind in the world and vegetables were just real cheap. Pay a cent a pound for, say, watermelons and cantaloupes and tomatoes, as they call them. And all in all, it sounded like quite a place to go to. And he said the whole country is booming now, and lots of jobs. If you have a degree in anything, practically, there's no problem. If you want to work, you can. But he said that my retirement pay, I could forget about working if I wanted to. And they don't tax American pensions, so that'd be another thing in favor of it. Something to think about, anyway. Have you done any cooking on the outdoor grill? I miss that. We can get steaks at the club, $1.50, $1.75 for T-bones and things, but they're grilled right on the, just a grill like you'd grill hamburgers. So they're not as good as cooking them over a charcoal or gas fire, but they're good once in a while for a change from the mess hall variety. The mess hall seems to feed more ham than anything else. You get baked ham, fried ham, ham sandwiches, and you name it. I like ham, of course, but it can get a bit old. I don't know whether you can hear it on the tape or not. I guess not, but the artillery is working again tonight, and it sounds like I don't know, the 8-inch artillery shells going out somewhere. I don't know how far out. I guess actually we were just as well off being off base as we were being on today, with even with the mortar we took. Just outside of our storage area, we've got what we call an observation post. It's manned by South Vietnamese Army. It's a listening post where they can check any activity in the area between us and Engineer Hill. But they took a few rounds of mortar today and had casualties. I don't know what kind or how serious. The air police that were out furnishing an escort for us picked up a radio transmission from CSC on the base that they were under fire and had casualties. So sounds like things heating up. I'm with you. I don't know what the heck Nixon's waiting for. I guess he shook his finger long enough. Maybe he'll get real serious now and protest the UN or something. I tell you, it's everybody over here is getting kind of upset. You ask about if I had a job. Now I do. I tell you, it's a job. We don't have a formal MMS, but we're operating like we do, and I'm in charge of the whole munitions complex, receipt and storage and handling, loading, and the whole works. And that's a job. We're going into a 12-hour shift, 6-day week tomorrow. We're giving everybody a day off, one day during the week if we can. This is my day off. I try to take Sundays off. Today I thought I ought to go out with EOD just to see what they do. I wouldn't like a practice of it, but you know me, I like to know what my troops are doing and what problems I have and anything I can do to help them, and that's the only reason I went today. And I think it'll be a while before I let them go back out into that area until they can guarantee it's secure. Even though they didn't hit us, I don't like for people that are going out and handling that quantity of explosives to be harassed that way, and the possibility of something hitting in the middle of it while they're getting it set up. So from that standpoint, I think it's a worthwhile trip. When I left home, I had no idea, you know, this is so different from World War II type operations where, well, maybe you could expect an air raid or something like that occasionally, but mortars and rockets and this type of thing, it's a different kind of war, I'll tell you for sure. I mean, you feel like you're part of it, even though you're kind of rear echelon ground pounding type instead of being up in the wild blue, you know. It's, you feel that you're actually doing something worthwhile, and they're killing them. These munitions we're putting on them are killing lots of Cong and North Vietnamese both. Had a lot of body counts from their raids, and they're getting a bunch of them. It's not very widely publicized, if it's publicized at all, but we're hitting Cambodia, and I guess we're going to continue hitting it, and we've got to, because that's where we're just too close to the border, and that's where they're stockpiling all munitions and various other supplies, and that's where their sanctuary has been. So politically, I don't know whether anybody's announced it or not, but when you hear of a plane going down in Cambodia that strayed across the border, he didn't stray. He gave me this title, you know, of assistant deputy commander for materiel, because they don't actually haven't got the approval to organize and activate a munitions maintenance squadron. But actually, I'm doing the same job that an MMS commander would be doing, except it's a little more difficult since I don't really have people all fully under my control. They're still assigned to fighter squadron and to the consolidated aircraft maintenance squadron, but we have a working agreement with I do, with the two commanders that I have to run things my way, but since if munitions are not all controlled as a package, things tend to get a little bit disorganized. So, in effect, we do have an MMS, and I think very shortly we'll have a formal, and I hope so. It'll make it somewhat easier. Fine troops are working themselves right into the ground out there in that storage area. It's, I mean, it's unbelievable the conditions they're working under out there. Dirt roads are just dusty as they can be now, and they're going to be muddy when the monsoons start. Been putting pressure on the civil engineers to get down there and pour some asphalt around on their, especially their napalm mixing area. It's just a big dirt pad. We have a big JP4 tanker truck, and we mix in our napalm powder in a little hoppers. The fuel flows through it, and then it goes right into the napalm bombs, which look just like a wing tip tank, you know. And then you have an igniter put in there that has an impact fuse on it. When it hits the ground, it ignites and starts a napalm burning. This napalm, you know, is just a jellied petroleum fuel, just like Jello, after you mix powder with JP4. And what makes it so effective, it's sticky. It don't just run all over the place. It comes out in chunks, and it sticks to whatever it hits. And it sits there and burns at about 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. So, hope Charlie don't like it a bit. And we've used, that's the biggest item we're using right now, about 70 or 80 napalm bombs a day. There is a type of napalm, call it the blue BLU, it's Bomb Live Unit 32, which is pre-filled at the factory, but we've been out of those ever since I've been here, and the blue 23s and the blue 10s that we're using most of now are all just come in pieces of metal. We have to assemble them, and then we have to mix the napalm and fill them, so it's time-consuming job, and every time you think you've got just a few ahead of the game, they lay on a few extra strikes and they use up your entire reserve, so you end up working overtime. Of course, we have people out there all night anyway, but occasionally people put in an 18-hour day. It's a real nice feeling, though, that a bunch of 17, 18, 19-year-old kids out there, and they're good troops. They're not like hippies that are causing all the problems in colleges. A lot of them are going back to college, and I told them, well, you sure you want to go back there? And I think you'd be a little bit safer over here if you just extend. Morale seems to be real high. It's better now than it was when it came, because nobody in munitions like to work for people in aircraft maintenance, because they just don't understand the problems, and they begin to feel like they're part of a unit now instead of shoved way back down the backside of nowhere, you know. So I feel like we're going to have a real going outfit. A bunch of real fine NCOs, old timers and munitions, and Captain Barber spent 10 years enlisted man in munitions, EOD officer, spent about 7 years enlisted in EOD before he got his commission, so got some real good people that know their business, and are real dedicated. If we can just get the administration to decide to get this thing over with, start pushing it like it should be pushed, instead of letting them decide when and where they want to hit us, keep them guessing for a change, and go ahead and hit Haiphong and Hanoi and a few places like that. They were asking about if I could get news from anywhere other than local area. We do get the Stars and Stripes. It's in the combat theater. It's distributed free, but it's usually 2 days late. We get Wednesday's news usually on either Saturday or Sunday, but we do have AFN. There's a 50,000 watt AFM station up on the hill just south of us here that covers the whole Central Highlands area. So we get about the same news coverage we got in Germany, except I think we get more with the local type than we did over there. Of course, there's more going on here from that standpoint than there was over there. See if you can get the boys to say something to me. I'd like to hear from them. I'm glad to hear that they're getting out and getting some things cleared up in the yard. It's getting that time of the year now, and maybe Johnny and Danny could get out and start working on the flower beds, and maybe even planting a small garden out there somewhere. I guess Pat's being kept pretty busy with his paper route and his journalistic endeavors. He's a real good writer. You ought to work on that a little bit. Have him practice a little bit, writing me a letter. I don't want you to be overly worried about me. I'm telling you everything now that happens around me or to me, and I'm not worried or scared, and I don't want you to be. Chances of anything hitting right where I am is pretty remote. In fact, I'd almost put it on the same order as you getting hit driving from the house there to commissary at Little Rock. It's, I mean, they just don't have the means to put on that big an effort to make it a very risky affair here, but just enough harassing type things to break up the monotony, I guess, and let us know we're still in a war zone. I'm not worried, I'm not scared, and I'm careful, and I don't want you to worry about me. I'll send you a letter or a tape, one every day. The mail being a little bit erratic, there may be days that it don't get delivered, but there'll be something put in the mail at this end at least every day. I realize it's 4 or 5 days. Usually it's been running 6 here lately, delivery time over here. So there's a gap there between what's happening and you finding out about it, but you don't have, if something should happen, you'd be notified within just a few hours of it. You don't have to wait until 6 days and all of a sudden there's no mail. You'd be notified. So don't sweat it. And I'm gonna have to sign off now and go take a shower and get to bed. I'm kind of beat today. I miss you. I love you. It's awfully nice to hear from you again, and keep them coming. Bye.